I keyed in the final approach to the coordinates provided by my client. I got an eyeful of the billboard outside. Happy Salnick used starship cells in flashing lights. I let out a low whistle as I realized the billboard was probably bigger than my starship, which didn't give me much confidence. I had a bad feeling as more lights and bigger billboards all too often translates into bigger problems with the ships, and more arguing with a craptacular dealer who won't accept they are selling something about to fall apart. I lowered the landing struts and lined up with the docking pad my client had indicated in their message. As I pulled up and landed at pad 2, I took a glance out at the cockpit window as I spun down the drives. There was a Vorgan and a Brillic standing at the edge of the pad looking at my shuttle. The Vorgan very much resembled a daddy longlegs, and even had 8 spindly appendages. The major difference is that Vorgans are 4 to the floor and 4 to the roof, quite literally, as the resting pose for their arms has their arms sticking out and then suddenly bending to point straight at the sky. The central body sits about 4 feet off the ground and is about the size of a basketball. Unlike your friendly daddy longlegs on Earth, which are helpful with insect control and not harmful to sapiens, Vorgan ancestors got to the top of the heap of their world by being the most evolved and fastest reproducing pests. Their population in the galaxy is held in check by only 2 things. First, having sapience allows them to have an understanding of the idea that overpopulation is bad. Second, they hate spending money on anyone but themselves. This explains why their near constant complaints about the cost of having children keeps their numbers in check. Essentially, sapient space cockroaches with bad attitudes to match. It made sense they were the proprietor of a backwater-used starship cells lot. The Brelic would best be described as a 5-foot-tall slug with large pitch-black oval eyes. They can manipulate their bodies to project up to 8 short stubs to use as legs, and up to 6 tentacle arms ending with 2 fingers each. The first time you see one, it's a little unnerving to see them suddenly sprout an elastic arm with 2 fingers, manipulate something, and then suck it back into their body like it never existed. They can easily contort their body to fit in chairs of any size or description, and be comfortable despite their large bulk. Personality-wise, Brelic are focused and driven, but only on a single task at a time. Do not ask them to talk and chew bubblegum at the same time. But only chew bubblegum or just talk and do nothing else for 12 hours straight, they've got you covered. The Vorgan had covered its legs in a navy blue paint, and their arms in a maroon colour, both obnoxiously glittery. My client, on the other hand, wore nothing at all over their pale blue skin, beyond an oversized black backpack. Expressions? The dealer was swaying slightly side to side with smugness. My client seemed to deflate slightly as my old ship landed. I can understand why, as my old Saboric 8700 isn't the prettiest, and mine had over 175 years of scars from regular spaceflight. They haven't been produced in over 150 years, and most owners hated them as maintenance hogs. Granted, the sublight engines are temperamental beasts, but only if you skip the required maintenance intervals. Yes, it's a pain to clean and adjust the fuel intakes every 200 flight hours, and you have to replace the fuel filters each time, at a cost of 100 credits. What they don't tell you in the Galnet forums is the fuel filters increase engine efficiency by 13% when replaced on schedule, and the fuel savings more than covers the cost of the filter and the drive technician. On top of that, the procedure is so simple that even a marginally adept owner can complete the process in under 2 hours. It's the 1,000 flight hour turning that gets irritating, as it requires a master technician and a unique tool made only for Sabric drives. But even there, it isn't far off the typical 1,500 flight hour checks most engine systems require. Here's the truth about these old hulks. When operated by a competent owner who follows the maintenance schedule, they are the most reliable vessels in the galaxy. It's only when you skip something that things go wrong and get expensive. More importantly, they have soul. You get used to the various clicks, hums, and whirs the longer you own one, and a good owner can tell a master technician what's out of alignment before they even pull out a scanner. And if you listen and care for your metal beast, It will outlast most governments. I've personally worked on a Sabric 8700 that was over 350 years old, and I know of at least two over 400 years old, all with original drives. I patted the primary control panel and said with a sad smile, "They just don't understand, Kifra." I then looked up at the fuzzy dice tied to the control board above my head and gave them a gentle bop before getting up to grab my tools and exit the craft. I wore my standard grey coveralls, which had the normal stains from working on starship drives. I looked like every other greaser in the galaxy, as I stood confidently towards my client. "How much did you pay for this hack?" the Vorgan asked, with a smugness nearly as obnoxious as the billboard. 1,000 credits, my client responded quietly. "By the stars!" The Vorgan let out with clattering mandibles, their equivalent of a guffaw. "I could have recommended a local tech that wouldn't even charge you 500 credits for a pre-purchase inspection, and they show up in something less than 2 decades old, instead of a clunker over 2 centuries old. I can't even sell those old Sarpics for scrap. I bet half the fee is just to pay for the work to keep that old beast space-worthy." "This sapient came highly recommended on Galnet," my Brelic client answered defensively, but with 2 outstretched and slightly wavering tentacles. I knew that to mean they felt unsure about the situation. I gave the Vorgan a flat stare, and my client a polite nod, before I simply walked over to the required check-in terminal. To prevent unauthorized access to starships, all dealerships are required to keep their facilities secure, and you need to log your entry on a Galnet terminal. I swiped my card, and the speaker announced my presence. I usually found the required announcement a little pretentious, but in this case I was looking forward to the reaction. "Terran Certified Master Technician Clara Sandish, recognized and logged for entry." In my Galnet listing, I didn't list that I was a CMT. Standard certified techs have 4 years of training, plus at least 1 year of hands-on experience. I have 7 years of training, plus 3 years of work in a shipyard, working on vessels from the Terran military, down to custom one-off designs produced by shipwrights you've never heard of. I am trained to not only fix things, but fab custom parts of my own design. I didn't want to be flooded with calls from idiots wasting my time. I prefer to build my client list slowly and use word of mouth, being very clear with clients that they should never mention my status as a master technician. Plus, I like the variety of clients you find advertising as a standard tech, instead of just the stuck-up wealthy and military types who demand CMTs. It was my turn to wear the smug smile as I turned around. My client had perked up quite a bit, and was staring at me with intense interest. The Vorgan? "I'll take 20% off the listed price if you sign the paperwork now," the space cockroach blurted out. "I think I'll wait for the inspection," my client responded confidently. 40% off list, and I'll throw in a 3D nanowax for the whole vessel, along with security etchings on all major parts to deter theft, the Vorgan asked with a pleading whine, "but only if you sign immediately." My client looked troubled. After all, they had paid my fee up front. It wasn't refundable, and after those outbursts, it didn't take much effort to recognize this dealer as a scam artist. I gave them a much-needed out. "Your original message mentioned a possible second ship. For a 100 credit travel charge, I can take you over to that dealer, and you can use the inspection fee on that vessel today," I offered, with a professional smile. "Accepted. Let us depart immediately," the Brelic said, as they quickly turned around and moved toward my ship. Neither one of us bothered to look back at the Vorgan. There wasn't much conversation on the way to the other dealer beyond me ushering my client to the co-pilot seat. Their brain was obviously locked on. "We are going to the other dealer called This Little Starship Lot." Cute name, but the Galnet results only said the place had been open a few months, so who knew what we might find? As I pulled into the docking pad at the dealer indicated by my client, I saw something waiting. It was pink, furry, and excited to see us arrive. I stared outside as we came in for a landing, and I finally got a closer look. Not a child in a fur suit or a large dog dyed pink. Definitely a Prepurchase. Fluffy, pink. And depending on the angle and the way your brain processes things, either a space dinosaur or a space-crested gecko dinosaur. I kept staring as my ship pulled forward, and kept pulling forward until my Brelec client made a noise like a bowl of angry jello being shaken, and my eyes snapped back forward. With a quick grab, I killed the throttle and dropped us onto the landing pad. "Always make a dramatic entrance," I joked to my client, as internally I cringed how far forward I had landed on the pad. The security fence was literally no more than 2 feet away from the nose of my ship. Prepurchase are definitely distracting. We were promptly greeted at the bottom of the ramp once we exited. "Hi," the furry space dinosaur said with a wave. "I'm Alishreek, owner of this little starship lot. I understand you've come to look at the Forecat 43. Please, just call me Ali." He then raised both hands palm up, and a hollow appeared above each hand. The one on the left had a human smiley face, while the one on the right had an emoticon of a Brelec doing a forward bow. This guy definitely wasn't pulling any punches on tossing out the cute or furry cards. It didn't help that the Prepurchase wasn't wearing any clothes, so my brain kept going to bouncy furry thing want play. I even opened up my tool case for a moment, looking for a ball before my mind snapped back to reality. "Cosmetics are fair, but I can guarantee your mechanic will be satisfied with the condition," Ali said with gusto. "Please, come this way and sign in at the Galnet terminal." My brain was still having a little trouble comprehending the reality of the ball of fluff in front of me, so I simply stepped mechanically over to the terminal and swiped my ID card. I rolled my eyes as the terminal called out my name and official certification. "Terran Certified Master Technician Clara Sandish, recognized and logged for entry." Instantly, 2 hands were pulling down on my right arm to lower my ID card and get a better look at it. Internally, I raised an eyebrow, as I figured I would get some sort of objection or snarky comment from yet another used starship dealer. Instead, Annie stared at my ID and then looked up at me with excitement. "A certified master technician? Ma'am, you do me an honor by visiting my humble space yard. The vessel in question is at the end of the yard on the left." He then turned to my client. "Gentle being, may I provide you with some refreshments while we wait?" A dealer that wasn't going to stand there staring over my shoulder the entire time. This was new. I proceeded to do the inspection, and in the end, I wish I had started with the pre-ignition systems. There were a bunch of red flags that would need further and pricey diagnostics, but this is where I found the absolute no-no. I stepped out of the ship and went back to the docking pad. When I arrived, I found Ali sitting comfortably in a chair, while the Brelec instantly shifted from "I am sitting waiting for the technician to return" to "the technician has arrived, and I will now receive my report." Not good news, I'm afraid. There are issues with irregular waveforms on the FTL drive intake. I wish that was all. However, I found a real problem. The pre-ignition permacrystal has been removed and replaced with a blank, I said, but then paused as I saw the Prepurchase's face fall into shock. "Ali, as you know, this is required to record the odometer, total active service time on all subsystems regardless of odometer reading, as well as every drive and error code ever presented on startup, given a clear and permanent basic service history. You can't sell a ship with an altered or tampered permacrystal." "But I checked for codes with a Sparkit 4200, Ali cried out. "The Sparkit line is great for technicians just fixing things, but any SnapMac has deep dive capabilities by default. It more reliably catches tampering, and also checks for improper waveforms, instead of just checking if the numbers are within spec," I explained. I really fell for Ali. He tried. Genuinely tried, and even bought a well-respected professional scanner. It just wasn't the right one for catching the common hidden features in used starships. "The waveform issues point to some expensive and immediately necessary repairs to prevent drive failure," I said professionally. "But the tampered permacrystal? That's a sign other systems have been tampered with. At best, you just find the ship was previously stolen. Most often, someone is trying to hide all the problems. At worst, it was a smuggler vessel, and there may be hidden contraband compartments that will get you fined in most systems. The only safe option is a certified gut and rebuild, which will exceed the value of a new ship. It's a parts yard vessel and not something you can sell. I gave the Brelic a nod and motioned to my ship. We both turned and started moving to leave. I hated to leave Ali hanging like that, but there wasn't anything I could do to help. "Wait!" Ali called out, still clearly upset with my news. "Clara, may I obtain your services to inspect all of my other ships? I am greatly concerned I have been led astray by the wholesale lots. And, gentle being, I understand that this trip has thus far been a waste of your time. May I offer you accommodation at the local hotel while Clara works? I have 2 similar vessels on the lot which may fit your requirements. A Barnwick S52 currently running rough, but our esteemed master technician may be able to provide clarity on that matter, and a Volondis Star Ranger. I know the Volondis may be a bit higher priced than you initially were hoping for, but it should be well worth consideration if the inspection works out." "I've never heard of a dealer making such an offer," I whispered to my client. "I can get both inspections done by midday tomorrow." "I accept," my client said. And with their minds set to a new objective, they turned to Ali. "Please take me to the hotel now." "Right," Ali said with a bit of strain. "Clara, I'll set the gate to allow you unlimited access while I'm gone. Please, feel free to begin work or prepare for tomorrow, whichever works best for you." He also made a swipe on his datapad and sent me an invoice request. I sent it back with a request for 3,000 credits, giving him the 4th inspection free. He didn't even look at the amount and just transferred the credits. I was also a little stunned he'd just give me unlimited access to the yard while he was gone. "Right this way," Ali said to my client, as he brought them over to an old hovercar and left for the hotel. I made a call to my partner, who thankfully had the next 2 days off and had already promised our daughter a trip to the local zoo tomorrow. I got off the hook for not coming home tonight by agreeing to a 4-day space park visit the day after. I might have been a little hurt that a full day at the space park was enough to overcome "Mummy won't be home," but youthful priorities are what they are. I went to work, and it was clear that Ali was stressed when he returned. He didn't bother me except to offer refreshments occasionally, and mostly spent his time cleaning and reorganizing the yard. A yard that was, by most dealership standards, already very neatly cared for, and in no need of cleaning or organizing. I wanted to be sure I'd be at the space park with my daughter in 2 days, so I worked late and slept on my ship, despite Ali's offer of a room in his home. I woke up early, ate some underwhelming meal replacement paste, and went back to work. By mid-afternoon, I had all of Ali's ships inspected with full reports, except the S52, which needed some further investigation. Ali went to the hotel and collected the Brelic, whose name I had finally looked up and declared unpronounceable. It seriously looked like one of those old, randomly generated passwords full of letters, numbers, and special characters. When they arrived, I simply gave them both a respectful bow of greeting, before cutting to the chase. The correct check cargo box is in rough shape, but salvageable with repairs. You'll likely break even on that, but no better. Not saleable in current conditions. The Arbrian Firestar just looks terrible, but mechanically is rock solid. The price there is fair for the condition. Now for the 2 vessels our honoured Brelic is considering. I turned from Ali to the Brelic. The Barnwick S52 has some possible parts mismatches, which may explain why it's running rough. It is either a factory option model poorly tuned, or an aftermarket attempt to recreate a factory option model. I didn't even get a chance to mention it would be expensive but worthwhile to repair, when the Brelic extended 2 tentacles down to reject it. The Star Ranger has a crack in the sublight intakes. It'll cost 25,000 credits to repair. Once done, it'll be worth the full 220,000 credits asking price, and will be reliable. I offer 190,000 credits for the ship, and the master technician 25,000 credits to make the repair. The Brelic offered quickly. Inspection rules bar me from performing repairs to prevent any possible conflict of interest, nor am I allowed to recommend a specific repair shop. I must decline. I shall provide full data of my inspection and accept full liability against my certification for any major system issues I have missed, in accordance with galactic law, I responded professionally. I'll take a loss selling or repairing, Ali said with a sad smile. I will accept your offer of 190,000 credits, and further offer a free tow to the repair facility of your choice within 5 light minutes of my dealership. The Brillick knew a fair deal when they saw one, and declared, We must now complete the required paperwork. Such a simple statement, for what turned into nearly 2 hours of reviewing, signing, and acknowledging acceptance of documents. Once done, Ali even paid for a shuttle ride for the Brillick to return home. He then sat down hard on the docking pad and stared at the ground, obviously dejected. I guess I'll just need to take on more debt and be more careful, but I'm seriously wondering if I'm cut out for this business. Ali, I said softly, and he raised his head to look at me. The news isn't all bad. How? He asked, with clear strain in his voice. Inspection rules prevent me from doing repairs for a buyer, but dealers are expected to know if a tech is trying to rip them off, I said softly. Pay me to research and fix the Barnwick. If I'm wrong, it's just an S52 someone did a dry swap with an old S50 and kept the intake to recreate the record-breaking Mare Free project. If so, it's a finicky beast, but would sell for a pretty credit chit and let you break even on all the other messes I found. The parts are all factory and period correct, not aftermarket. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, Ali said hopefully. Even a blind Minek finds a Moshef leaf. If I'm right, it's a late production S50 with the factory Mare Free options, and you'll make a profit of over 50,000 credits selling to a collector. I just need to contact the factory and have them run the serial number and options list, I said with a growing smile. And for making it in this business, you just need some contacts for technicians who can help you out and do reasonably priced inspections before you buy, just like any good buyer. I'll give you names and contact info, including mine. Ali stood up and approached me. I smiled down at him as fear faded, replaced by hope. They say the power of fur compels. There's something stronger. A nice guy trying to do the right thing in a crappy industry, and I needed to make sure he had a chance. I understand that humans are fond of hugs? Ali asked, while looking up at me with his arms open wide. May I? Definitely, I responded emphatically. He leaped onto my chest and suddenly found myself deeply scritching his back, with his head over my right shoulder. I lost track of time until a sudden voice behind me had me turn and look over my shoulder. I see you've made a friend, husband, a royal blue Prepurchase said with a sly smile. Cradled in her arms was a tiny ball of pink fluff. Peeking from behind her tail was a slightly larger ball of orange fluff. The stories about humans and deep tissue massage are true. Ali slurred over my shoulder. Perhaps your newfound friend would like to stay for dinner? The royal blue Prepurchase asked. I noticed that she was slightly taller than Ali, but in reality neither one of them was that far above waist height. I tensed as the little orange ball of fur darted from behind their mother and climbed up my side to sit on my shoulder before poking me in the nose. Why are you so tall? A tiny voice asked me. May I invite my partner and our daughter? I asked. Of course, and please call me Pasha, she responded with a smile. And with that, I was booked for a family dinner and the start of a long business partner relationship. When we retired 30 years later, my son took over the repair shop, and my daughter was the proud new owner of this little starship lot. Ali and Pasha? Their rugrats had long ago decided to flank my kids by opening that little starship lot and the other little starship lot across the street. Each of them specialized in different starship types, which kept things peaceful within the family. Kifra, my old Sabarik 8700. We converted her cargo section from an emergency repair and tow configuration into comfortable living quarters. Ali and I were currently playing rock, paper, scissors to determine who would have the honours of piloting to our first post-retirement vacation. If Ali won, he would fly us to Earth. My partner and I would teach our friends to ski. If I won, we'd go to Prepurchase Delta, and they would teach us narrate. Rock, paper, scissors, pew pew. We both pulled finger guns, in a vain attempt to cheat.